God is amazing, as we often say. And so let's look at Isaiah chapter 25, which is similar to Isaiah chapter 26 from the perspective of rejoicing. Let's title Isaiah 25, Rejoice, understanding that the kind of judgment we saw in the previous chapter, chapter 24, frequently doesn't describe idle vengeance against those doing wrong as much as it also describes the relief brought to those done wrong. Thus, verse 1 of chapter 25 reads, O Lord, you are my God. I will exalt you. I will praise your name. As the chapter will go on to describe why in a number of 4 statements. Verse 1 toward the end saying, for you have done wonderful things, not just generally wonderful things, but verse 3, wonderful things that prevent ruthless nations from otherwise attacking them by putting, for lack of a better term, the fear of God in them. Verse 4 saying, for he has been a stronghold to the poor. Going on once again in verse 5 to say something similar, quieting the songs of the ruthless who might have otherwise been able to exploit God's people. As the rest of the chapter will go on to maybe take the form of some on this statements. Verses 6 through 8 saying, on this mountain, the Lord of hosts will make a rich feast for all peoples, describing a very famous phrase that we will see again in the Revelation, describing the peace that he will ultimately bring as swallowing up death forever in verse 8 and wiping away the tears from all faces, same verse. So he will go on in verse 9 to talk about on that day, God will reward those who have waited for him with, as our title says, rejoicing. But it's going to go on to talk about one of the reasons why they have cause to rejoice is the degree of protection and deliverance they have found from those too mighty for them. Understanding that verses 10 through 12 give us another look at Moab and the problem that God had with Moab. This time, verse 11, letting us know that the Lord will lay low his pompous pride together with the skill of his hand. I have a footnote that says, in spite of the skill of his hand is another translation. Verse 12, going on to additionally let us know, in the high fortification of his walls, he, meaning God, will bring down, lay low, and cast to the ground, to the dust. Reminding me of something we from time to time call gun courage. Understanding that guns can be a tremendous tool for personal or self-defense. There is a level of courage that they can instill, however, that can cause us to go too far, causing us to sometimes seek out problems we would not necessarily want if we were unarmed. And to the degree we lose our ability to pump the brakes on our gun courage, we have noticed that God has a way of disciplining us by bringing us problems we simply can't shoot. And understanding that gun courage represents simply one type of overconfidence, this chapter seems to remind us that there is a day where God seems to deal with those who have gotten into the habit of doing wrong simply because they can get away with it, in order to prepare a time and a place where his people can just rejoice.